Good evening, folks. I hope you're having a great holiday season. Hope Christmas was good for you. And hopefully it's a good segue for what's going to be happening in 2023 here in Massachusetts and beyond. If you watched the show last week, we basically did kind of an overview of what's been going on within the country, various major gubernatorial, senatorial races, and so forth. And today we're going to be focusing a lot more on local issues. And at great expense, we've flown in Jay Givan to enlighten us with his overview and review of what happened here in Massachusetts and very specifically in the Worcester area. And also, let's do a little sneak peek at 2024. And I know we're heading into 2023, but which looks like kind of a tough year. But 2024 is going to be literally for all the marbles and beyond.
If hopefully Santa Claus brought a lot of coal into your stocking, because you're going to need it in 2023, thanks to the inbound feminazi governor coming in, Maura Healey, I want to kind of step back a little bit and go back to the 2022 election compared to what's coming up in 24.
Please.
In 2022, as we had talked about, there were 19 Republican state Senate seats and 15 Democrat. For the Republicans to make any headway and pick up any seats, they first had to hold the 19 they had and then pick up one of the remaining 15, of which the majority of those are solidly blue. So it really gets down to either New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. Mitch McConnell, Karl Rove, establishment happens. Went Democrat, we're down. I don't even know what the official numbers are because Kirsten Sinema from Arizona
she's
left the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
Not as much as
Manchin.
No, what's her name from Hawaii?
Oh, yeah, Gabbard.
Yeah, Tulsi.
Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah.
But in 2024, the numbers are just flipped. 2024 is the 2018 class, which is the Trump midterm, which was very good for Democrats. So they need to defend 19 Senate seats and pick up one of the remaining 10 Republican seats. The problem is, for Democrats, the Republican seats are Florida, which is now solidly Republican, Texas, Missouri, North Dakota, Utah. They're not going to do it. But the Democrats need to defend what are traditionally red states. Montana, Wisconsin, that could go Republican. Michigan, it's gone Republican in the past. Virginia is currently blue. That's becoming a red state. We've got Pennsylvania, despite the Fetterman mess of this year, or last year, whenever this gets played, that won't be the case 2 years from now. Ohio is currently blue, and that's become a solidly red state.
Yes, it has.
So if you look at it just from a very superficial historical view, the Republicans could pick up 3, 4, maybe 6 or 7 Senate seats. And that's far beyond the 1 or 2 or whatever the numbers will be. So it's not looking very good for the Democrats. And now you're going to have 2 more years of Joe Biden and the brilliant VP, Kamala Harris. At the time of this filming, we don't know what's going to happen with Title 42. But even without it, we're being inundated by this. It's not Mexico, it's all over the place. People are flying to Mexico to come across the border. It's going to be a catastrophe. We have mail-in voting. which you supply upwards to 15,000 illegals coming in a day. You know they're going to be voting, whether or not they have a driver's license or not. The housing market has basically come to a standstill. Inflation is still at a 41-year high. It's not looking good. And 2 more years, if we have 2 years of what we've had in the past 2 years, the Democrats are in big trouble.
It should be.
That does not mean that the Republicans know what they're doing. And you've got people like Karl Rove and Mitch McConnell. You've got the Mitt Romneys of the world. Liz Cheney, she'll be barking at someplace, not from Washington, D.C., thankfully. But it doesn't look good, at least at this particular point.
I saw something earlier today that said that housing sales in the Worcester area are currently down 35%. Taxes aren't. Prices of houses have kind of stabilized and just a little bit higher, but they're sitting there. And a lot of people are trying to get mortgages, and they're being shot down because the lenders are saying, wait a second, your job looks a little shaky at this point, and we're looking at almost 7% mortgage rates. Thank you very much, by the way. Which means if you don't have a real healthy down payment, we're not going to give you a $400,000 or $500,000 mortgage. Not going to happen. So more and more houses are going to be up there, and as this thing ratchets up, because the Fed, they just kicked it up another half point, and they'll continue doing that because they think that that's a way to negate the inflation mess that we're in, and they're doing all the wrong things. And 2023, and believe me, folks, I don't delight in saying these things because I am you. I'm with you. I live here. I don't want things to be as nasty as they are right now, and they're going to be even nastier. This is going to be one hell of a winter. It's going to be cold, nasty. A lot of people aren't going to go back to work because they don't want to. They don't have to. And the very fabric of who we are as a country is being challenged and changed right now as I speak to you. And it's very, very sad to see. Very, very sad to see.
And then this city decided to vote for the CPA surcharge, I think 1.5% on top of your tax bill. The state voted in the millionaire's tax, which is about as stupid a thing you can do. The last state that did it, this happened to all states, but the last state that did this, Maryland, the proponent said, we're going to raise $200 million in the first year alone. They lost $100 million in revenue. Because if you're a millionaire, you can afford to leave the state. And now we're coming into what's going to be a bad year already. Energy costs alone are going up 64%, or have already gone up 64%. If you add a property tax increase and then the surcharge on top of it, plus the millionaire's tax, that's going to slow the economy down. Locally, I'm going to get into the WRCC for a little bit. Kathy Roy is the chair of the Worcester Republican City Committee, and she almost single-handedly got the no's on the CPA, no on question 5 alone. The CPA people, the yes vote won by 1,500 votes, and there were roughly 5,000 blank ballots.
We didn't know what the hell it meant. So they said, I won't touch it, so I'm not going to vote.
So she did an absolute fantastic job alone. But she's also the chair of the WRCC.
Which is the Worcester
Republican City Committee. I think at this point going forward, so as I've said, and excuse me, we've got one Republican outnumbered by, I guess, 4. Sean Rose is not running. but still, I think it's for radical left, not Democrat. You know, Mo Bergman's a Democrat, but he's a good, rational, sensible guy. He could be mayor and do a fantastic job.
Mo is an old world
JFK.
Democrat.
Then the other city councilors, honestly, nice people. I don't think they do much. They don't help. They don't hurt. I think they're one of these, you know, stick the finger in the wind and see what happens.
I don't even think they put their fingers up. I'm not being vulgar with that either. I think basically, and Jay's a drummer, what they basically do is what they're told to do. And when people don't do what they're told to do, look at what happened to Mayor Petty. The mayor decided that he was going to try to take Harriet Chandler's spot. And he was going against a young lady who had no experience, no nothing, and blows him away. Now, how could that happen? Very, very simple. The muscle in the Democratic Party, led by McGovern, just decided they're going to teach Joe a lesson. And between that and the good, solid unions that are always in the pocket, decided to pull all the support for him, redirect it. What's her name again?
Robin Kennedy.
Robin Kennedy. Okay.
She'll do to the state like any other Kennedy has done to the state.
That's correct.
Although it's no relation.
What's the difference? And now, watch what happens. It was just announced very recently that guess who's running for his 7th term? Joe Petty is back. So he's going to be running again, and he'll win. It'll be a joke, because he's going to have the McGovern forces behind him again, and all the unions and blah, 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 blah. They'll all be solidly behind him. And we'll just continue the same old in this city. And if you're real happy with what's going on in Worcester, you bought it. Buy it again. It's a beautiful thing. You've got some nice things happening downtown, and a lot of not so nice things happening in the outskirts. And a lot of companies are leaving here, going into adjacent communities, and you can't blame them. You know, it's like the millionaire's tax. Well, yeah, one of the phrases that I really love is they've got to pay their fair share. Well, who elected you God, and you determine what a fair share is? That's almost like saying at the end of the year, which we're almost there right now anyway, you go to your accountant to do your taxes, and you start off by the accountant asks, well, how much do you want to have back? And then plugs that in, and then just kind of works the numbers. Same kind of thing. And it's very, very sad. Now we've got some real issues with the school system here, and all sorts of drug issues, all sorts of homeless issues, and all sorts of gang issues.
So getting into the homeless thing,
Please.
I think we have to preface the homeless issue in this city, or any city. I think if the WRCC or any conservative, rational thinking, just rational thinking, a candidate moves forward, and I don't know of any, I don't know who's running, but if they do, they need to articulate conservative principles and why we think the way we do, so they can explain things. And I think a lot of it is, since a municipality is more economic than anything, because it's what they do.
Yep.
Capitalism, in conjunction with free markets, has produced more prosperity, more wealth, more technological advancement, longer lives, and better quality of life than any other economic system in the history of the planet.
Yep.
And because of that, we defend that, and we are opposed to anything that will tax it, regulate it, obstruct it, and slow it down. Because you need a strong economy to be able to afford the social programs. And if you crap all over it, you're going to slow the economy down, and you won't have the money. And like we just said about Maryland, every time you raise taxes, you end up with less revenue. If you want more money coming into this city, and for whatever program you want, cut taxes, invite businesses to come in so they can create more jobs and more economic activity to the point, not completely, because if you're homeless, it's not because of a housing issue or a lack of housing. It's an abuse problem. They have substance abuse, alcohol, drugs, it's mental issues, sexual abuse, physical abuse, and whatever it is. That's the overwhelming reason why people are homeless, not because there's a lack of housing. And now that housing costs are plummeting, or will plummet, this city's in for a long, long road. And you need to cut spending, first of all. You need to fix the school committee, or the school department. 2/3 to 3/4 of the students in the city are not meeting minimum expectations based on standardized test scores.
Well, true.
Yet spending is at an all-time high.
So the answer you'll get is, it's not high enough. You got to spend more money. And the other part of this
No
thing,
business
I'm sorry,
has ever
go ahead.
gone out of business because taxes are too low.
Very
And
true.
I have asked and various candidates at all different levels, how high is too high for the average tax bill to be? Because at a certain point, you'll pay $10 for a pizza. You'll pay 11 or 12 bucks. You'll even pay 15 bucks. In this day and age, thanks to Joe Biden, you'll pay 20 bucks for it. But you're not going to pay $30 for it. You just simply won't. That local pizza place, they can't move. If they're on Burncoat Street over by McGovern's alleged house, they can't move to Tatnick Square. It's like being a brand new business. Now, if you're a national company and your HQ is in this state, you can move to New Hampshire. Big deal. If New Hampshire gets too expensive, you move down south, you eventually move out of the country.
It's interesting you say about moving to New Hampshire. If you're not aware of it, folks, we're located on Main Street in Worcester, a block away from City Hall. Nice. Right across the street from us, where we are, is a place that's been a rock-solid contributor to this area for decades, called the Owl Shop. They sell cigars, cigarettes, all sorts of other goodies like that. I don't do those. I don't partake in any of it, so I've never spent a dime in there. One of my sons is an avid cigar guy and goes in there all the time and all that, and he's heartbroken. But why, and what's happening with the Owl Shop? Is it that people simply are not smoking anymore? No, they're still smoking. What's also smoking is the tax base here and what it's costing them to do business. So as a result, leaving. And when I say leaving, he's leaving Maura Healey's playground. He's going into New Hampshire, period. And they expect that the tax base is going to be considerably less, the cost of doing business considerably less, and more of their perception, an upscale market up there. And they're very happy to be leaving. And that's a frightening situation when you have people doing business in downtown who just decide, not only do I want to leave the city, I want to leave the area and I want to leave the state. That's a very ugly situation. And I know the other side of that. You can say, wait a second, this is an isolated case, some little fringe business, cigars, whatever the hell. But this is what's happening throughout the area. If you take a look at the number of stores that are closed, you go to some of these big malls, and many of them are either closed, many of the stores that are there are closing, or the minimal number of hours because they can't get people, number one, to work anymore. And because of the the credit crunch, and because of inflation, people don't have the kind of cash that they did 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And don't tell me it's all because of the dreaded virus or RSV or whatever the latest.
C-19.
Yes, yeah, they always have one. They want to shove you in a mask because this way they can control you. This is an important statement. It's a political statement to be wearing a mask because they know damn well it doesn't do anything.
Well, in terms of costs, here are three little tidbits. So my parents' mortgage was about $135 a month, give or take. Right now, the average car payment is $743. The average repair bill is $481. And take a guess. What do you think nationwide the labor rate is for an auto repair shop? The average
$40 an hour.
at a repair shop.
Yeah, I'm just.
You got the 40 right.
Yeah.
240. Now that includes L.A., New York, Chicago. They're the big, like San Francisco. Around here it's 100, 125. It's getting up to 150 in Boston. But nationwide it's $240 an hour. And well, you're not paying your health $240 an hour. In that labor rate, you're paying property taxes, heat, and just the cost of doing business. That's what drives up, plus the Biden administration's policy in oil and Maura Healey's policy to shut 2 pipelines down from coming into the state. That's why some little old lady's paying $80 for an oil change when she should only be paying like $25 or $30. You've got a $200 brake job that's now up to $700, $800. They've got chain supply issues like everybody else does. So, as you've been saying, as you create inflation, costs are going up, taxes are going up, you have less money, and the money you have purchases less on things going, and you're not getting any pay raises. If anything, you're going to get laid off, and you're not going to get the pay raise.
Yep.
It's trickle-down poverty.
That's a good way to look at it, because one of the things that I'm very sensitive to, again, because of my age, I am a quote-unquote golden ager, and we are the over 65s, of which I am. We are the fastest growing demographic component in the city of Worcester, okay? The cost of renting apartments now, if let's say you have a need for a 2-bedroom apartment, I'm not talking, some luxurious high-rise thing, you're looking at upwards of $2,000 a month, almost $1,000 a room. If, God forbid, you need 3 bedrooms, you're looking at upwards of $2,500 a month.
You're looking at a U-Haul down to Florida.
And that's about where it's at. So the point is, with elderly folks who are being shoved into corners, if you will, when they can't pay their taxes and they can't pay for the food and all the other things, what do? Do they join the homeless? It's really a dreadful situation. And I know there's all these different projects, for example, where the Fairway Beef is downtown. That parcel just sold for $900,000. So what? They're going to be putting up a 7-story building there with 105 units. I guarantee you about 95% of those will be at quote-unquote market rate, which is the kind of numbers that I just mentioned.
I need to tell you this.
Please.
So the state's affordable housing law, Chapter 40B, basically a developer comes in and 25%, and it's more of a precedent than anything, 25% of a new housing project will be subsidized. That's not you and I calling it subsidized. That's how the state refers it to. At the DHCD, Department of Housing and Community Development, they have the SHI list, subsidized housing inventory. Worcester is at 13.5%.
Which is above the state.
The mandate is 10%.
10, yeah.
But there's another way to comply with that law, and that's through land. If you set aside 1.5% of the total land zoned for commercial, industrial, and residential, you can comply with it, as long as it's 25% of that project.
I'll be done.
The DHCD, and during the pandemic, has decided, we don't like that part of the law. Instead of, the law says the 1.5%, on whatever project that land parcel is on, you can count the entire land parcel. So if it's on 35 acres, you count the 35 acres. Beautiful. The DHC comes along and decides, we're only going to go 50 feet around the perimeter of the units. So you can have a 35-acre parcel that's now 4 or 5 acres. So you can, I thought I heard Worcester wants to up it to 15%, 50% above the state mandate. So they want to bring in subsidized housing and affordable housing, all for it. Subsidized housing is you and everybody else pays the developer to build subsidized housing. That means people who, let's say, need it, you're bringing in less and less affluent people. And then that gets into a tax rate. And it just...
Guys, I got to tell you that...
It's a snowflake going down the mountain.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And this is why we do activate Worcester. This is why we will continue to talk about these issues that you don't know about in the coming year. And get ready for 2024, because in my view, that's going to be the whole ball game. If everything continues the direction it's going in right now.
If you don't starve and freeze to death in 23, 24 is going to be the year.
It's going to be the year, and the country that we grew up in and hoped our kids would be growing up in and hoped our grandkids will be growing up in will be a figment of the imagination.
And just to end it,
please,
this is not the majority of people who are pushing this stuff. It's a small fringe wacko element within the Democrat Party.
Very true. Very true. I'd rather talk sports than this, but this is critical. It affects everybody here. I thank you for all the support you've given us throughout the year. We're going to have some really, really great shows next year. Please stay with us. And once again, thank you for watching us, and Happy New Year. And Jay, thank you very much for joining us, as usual. Thank you, sir.